Hello, good morning, everyone, to the Brown Bag Seminar Series. Today, we have our speaker, Joy Lin Chu, who is a third-year PhD candidate at Monash University, Malaysia. Her principal interest is in behavioral and development economics, and she will present the paper, Does Nudging Motivate Social Media Usage? Evidence from women micro-entrepreneurs in Malaysia. So Jolene, thanks a lot for being here, and the floor is yours. As usual, we have like 45 minutes, and then we can do questions, but also if you want to have questions during the presentation, it's okay for you?
Yes.
Perfect, and we have like 1 hour. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the introduction. So I'm Jolene, I'm a third-year PhD candidate from Monash University. So my research looks at how nudging affects social media usage with a focus on women micro-entrepreneurs in Malaysia. So nudge as a behavioral mechanism has been extensively studied in the past, and this study draws inspiration from two main papers. So these two papers, they look at how to design interventions to help women out of poverty. So the first paper looked at the impact of goal setting, peer support, and monetary incentive on helping the women micro-entrepreneurs to achieve their business-related outcomes. So a lot of studies in the past have mainly looked at monetary incentive, but this study, they incorporated non-monetary interventions such as asking the participants to set goals and also providing them with peer support. And they show that non-monetary interventions are actually also effective in motivating the women micro-entrepreneurs to achieve their business outcomes. And the second paper looked at the impact of providing training to the women micro-entrepreneurs on helping them to adopt mobile banking. And they found that just by introducing a short and easy training program, they are able to significantly increase the mobile banking adoption rate of the women micro-entrepreneurs. And this has subsequently helped them in their sales performance. So integrating all these findings, it provides the current impetus for this study, which is to design a non-monetary intervention, in particular informational nudging, that can complement training programs for women micro-entrepreneurs. So the advantage of nudging is that it is largely scalable and it is very cost-effective, which is ideal for the context of this study. So informational nudging, in particular, gain and loss framing has been studied extensively and also documented significant impacts from a lot of recent studies. So gain loss framing has been used to encourage pro-social behavior such as healthy eating, as well as increasing donation rate. It has also been used in the organizational context to study employee misbehavior. But to the best of my knowledge, very few studies have looked at how informational nudging in terms of gain loss framing has motivated technological usage. So this implies the need to design an intervention that motivates women micro-entrepreneurs to engage in digital entrepreneurship, especially during the pandemic where most transactions are happening online. And also social media is useful for these women micro-entrepreneurs. It has transformative potential because one, it has the advantage of low entry barrier, which is very useful for these women micro-entrepreneurs who cannot afford to start a physical business. So the first aim of this study is to look at how nudging leads to meaningful changes in social media usage, and also to look at whether the impact of loss frame nudge and gain frame nudge differ.
And just as a clarification, when you talk about social media usage, are you going to tell us more particularly what aspect of any particular aspect of social media usage? So for instance, I could be on Facebook and sending messages to my friends.
Yes, so we asked how often do they use Facebook and WhatsApp?
For business purposes.
For business purposes. So based on the dual process theory and also boundary rationality from economics, we tend to rely on mental shortcuts when we are making decisions to simplify the whole decision-making process. So when we are presented with contextual cues such as the nudges, we are more likely to be induced by it and behave in a certain way. So choices can be framed such that the desired outcome can be more salient. Previous literature has established significant treatment effects of gain-loss framing across organizational, health, and also social contexts. So the first hypothesis for this study would be the gain and loss frame nudges would increase social media usage among women micro-entrepreneurs. So based on prospect theory, losses have bigger influence than gains of the same size because it triggers increased sensitivity to task incentives. So bad events that are framed as losses will capture more attention as compared to good events that are framed as gains. However, it could be context dependent. For example, studies show that after experiencing adverse shocks, the participants may become more risk averse. So applying it to the context of this study, shock induced by the pandemic might make the participants more risk averse, which lead to higher sensitivity to negative framing. So they are more likely to utilize social media to improve business when they are presented with the negative cues. So the second hypothesis for this would be the loss frame nudge would be more effective than the gain frame nudge.
There's 2 points here. One is just regular risk aversion would give you that you want to minimize the gain, so minimize the loss, right? And then second point is about how you become more risk averse. So which one should we think about?
It's just looking at the impact of how the message is framed, whether it's framed in if it is framed in a loss way, is it more effective compared to when it is framed in a gain manner?
But you'll get it from a regular concave utility function where if these gains and losses are the same size, then a loss would have a bigger impact on utility than the similar size gain, right?
Yes.
And then there's a second point that you become more risk averse. So which one do we need that, or just that regular risk aversion would do it?
I think the regular one would do it. The risk averse is just to explain how loss frame nudge might be more effective than the gain frame nudge. So this study is conducted in collaboration with Malaysia, Malaysia, which is one of the biggest microfinance institutions. So we recruited the participants through Facebook, and we distributed online advertisement flyers that market for training program with a focus on social media marketing. So 598 women micro-entrepreneurs were recruited, and all of them are from the B40 household, which is the bottom 40% of the income earners in Malaysia. So we collected the data in 3 different ways. So the baseline was conducted during September 2021, and then the midline was conducted during December 2021, and the end line was conducted during February 2023. So we have data from 3 different time points, which allow us to assess the baseline result, the midline result, and also the end line result. And the participants are randomly assigned to one of the 4 groups. So we have 4 groups here. First is the baseline, which has no training and no nudge. And then we have the control group, which received training with no nudge. And then we have the gain treatment group, which received training with gain nudge. And then lastly, we have the loss treatment group, which received training with loss nudge. So the design of this intervention allows us to capture the separate and the joint effects and see which effect is effective and has significant impact. So this is the program flyer that we posted on Facebook to recruit the participants. So those who are interested, they have to contact the number that is included in the flyer here.
So did they get 2,500 ringgit for what? For participate?
Yes, they might stand a chance to win, not everyone.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of like an incentive for them to sign up for this.
And this is the flyer for the training, right?
Yes.
Media, social media training.
Yeah, social media marketing.
And they need to have a established business to
Uh,
qualify.
no, they do not have to. Most of those who join the program, they already have some kind of business.
Right.
Yes, because we do ask about their business in the survey.
And did you limit on the scale of that business, the size of sales or anything like that?
Um, mm, not really.
And you're going to show us you're going to show us the key characteristics of these people you recruited now and how they are balanced across the arms?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the design of the message content.
So do you have information on the size of the business and this stuff? Or?
Yes, we
Okay.
asked how many employees do they have, and yeah, sales, and we have that kind of data on their business. So yeah, so this is the design of the framing. So it can be dissected into two parts. The first part is identical in both treatment, which is the baseline message. So for the baseline message, we show them the factual evidence of using social media. And the second part is where the intervention comes in. So,
And what about the training? What is the training consist of? So the group which gets no messages. So there's a control group which does nothing, right? And there's a group you said which only gets the training and does not get any nudges.
yes,
And what does the training consist of?
teach them how to. So they have a speaker which provide the course on how to market on social media. For example, how to market their products and how to, like, for example, take pictures of the products.
And how long was this training program and how many days or weeks or whatever it lasted?
It was only 1 day.
This was 1 day.
Yeah, just 1 day. It was a 1 day training program.
Okay. And everybody who gets assigned to training shows up for it? There's no attrition?
Yeah, I think all of them show up for it. You can see from the results later. So the second part is where the intervention comes in. So we frame it in a way that emphasizes the gain and loss of adopting social media. And, yeah. So the design of intervention is adapted.
Can you just go back
Yeah.
for a second? We wanted to see what was the nudge, so how is it framed, negative, the positive and the negative nudge?
So we change the framing of the message depending on whether it's gain or loss treatment. So we emphasize on the gains or losses. For example, we tell them that if they decide to utilize digital platform, they'll be closer to improving their sales performance. And then we frame it in a negative way for the loss nudge. Yeah. So the design of this is adapted from Karlan and modified to suit the context of this study. And it is also complementary with the approach by Brodello. So gain loss framing as an intervention has been widely tested and showed significant impacts in a few of the past studies. So we use a simple OLS regression for this study. And the dependent variable is captured by asking how often do you use social media for business? For example, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. So it ranges from 1, not at all, to 4 every day.
And yeah.
So we conducted the balance test for all the variables. So we control for the age, whether they are married or not, whether they have children or not, their education level, and whether they receive any help in using social media. And because the training was conducted on several days, so we also control for the day fixed effect. And we also look at the attitude towards social media and see how social media help them to accomplish tasks, improve their business performance, organize their finance, and also whether they think it is a good idea for micro entrepreneurs to use social media. Yeah, so the dependent is social media usage for business.
And you don't have any business related characteristics that you have about these people who are running these businesses, what sector they are, what kind of products they produce. Like Shafat was asking, what's the scale of business, to see whether they're also balanced across these treatment arms?
Yeah, we do have data on that, but I didn't include it here. I think we can run, like, for example, heterogeneity tests on it.
No, I'm just interested, like, for instance, now when you look at this table, you can see the women who have been assigned across these three groups, the fourth column is missing, of T3, right? Are balanced, right? They are of the same age from the various groups. I mean, that's the whole point of randomization. You don't want to control for these statistics, right? You want them to be balanced. I'm just asking, do they look balanced when you look at not their personal characteristics, but at the business characteristics that these women are running?
From the data, most of them run home-based business. Yeah, and they have less than 5 employees. So I think most of them qualify for the category under small business, micro business. I think I should include more business characteristic in this. We do have the data for this. So the p-value confirms that there's no systematic differences across the groups before the intervention. So first we compare the baseline versus other groups. And so the average social media usage is highest for the loss free match, followed by the gain free match, and then the control group. So when we compare the baseline group against the control group, we find that there's no significant effect, which shows that training alone does not really have any impact on social media usage. But when we compare the baseline group against the treatment groups, which are the gain nudge and the loss nudge, we find significant impact, which means that nudging actually induces higher social media usage when it is integrated with the training.
So I'm just very confused. So when the guy goes out and suppose, you say training has no effect on my usage, right? Only when it's combined with the nudge, it has an implication. So when this guy goes in and trains, what does he tell them? Must be saying, why do you want to use social media, right? Because it's good for your business, it's going to increase your sale, or if you don't do so, it's going to be extremely negative because everyone, I'm just trying to understand, must have been this training, this be very hard not to combine, that the training implicitly does not send out either a gain or a loss framing in itself, right? I'm just trying to understand, was it so cleverly designed that the training program just goes, opens the thing, shows, hey, this is how you load something, but says nothing about why you should do social media usage or why it's important for your business? So how is it different from, because your nudge train treatment seems to be very light, right? You just say, oh, if you don't use it, you will face losses, or if you use it, you will increase sales, which seems to me must have been the very reason that these people sign on to get the training, right?
I think training could have impact on motivating them to use social media, but the nudges could
Or is it the case the nudges keep coming repeatedly for several days in following the training?
No, it's only when they answer the survey that they are nudged with the message. Yeah. It's not repeating. It's not repeated to them.
So when is the message given to them, this nudging message?
So as soon as they click the survey,
So
they'll-
just before they take the survey, it's given.
yeah, before they answer the survey, they'll be presented with a nudge.
But it's not possible that this message was also delivered during the training, maybe in a different way, or this is what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm also just trying, this one I was saying, and second I'm just saying is that then what are we measuring when you send out this message just before you ask them to answer the survey? Are they purely experimental demand effects, you know?
Are these intentions or actual usage? That's,
Sorry?
are these intention to use it this frequently in future? Or these are actually that what they have already done? So when you ask them in the survey,
You mean measuring the actual usage on?
yeah, so is this actual usage or their intention to do this in the coming?
Their intention to use it.
The
This is the-
intention to use it.
No, but this is different. How often do you use?
Yeah.
Is different than how often do you plan to use. So I think Rajesh's point is if you just give them a nudge and then you ask them right up after, like how long do you use it? How much do you use social media? Then it doesn't seem like a causal impact. It not be a bit, right? Because you just give them a nudge, then you ask them right away. They don't have time to react to that.
You mean you don't have time to react to the nudge immediately?
So then is this what actually happened in the past few weeks, or is this what they plan to do forward? What's the nudge measuring?
Because we have three different ways. Like, for example, when we compare the baseline and midline and end line. So it is like, for example, 1 year apart. So I think because we nudge them after the training. So
And maybe I'm also confused. Aren't there supposed to be 4 groups or there are 3 groups?
So
This is what you label control is just the training program, is it? Or is it really the control group which had nothing happen to them?
so baseline has nothing going on at all.
So that's the control.
We are looking at the impact of nudging, so we compare it to the control group, not the baseline. Because the control group received no nudge with only training.
Well, then
Yeah,
why
so
you
that's
need
called
the
a training
training?
group, yeah. Sorry?
Why you need the training if the experiment is just the nudging?
So she seems to suggest that training in itself is not useful.
Trying to see whether nudging can help to complement the training program. Yeah. So we also look
I
at
think the idea is the baseline idea is to make training more effective, right?
to see whether nudging can make the training more effective.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we also compare the control group against the other groups. So when we compare the control group against the treatment groups, so we see higher impact for the loss rate nudge as compared to the gain rate nudge. But both treatment groups have shown significant increase in social media usage.
And now when you do this in midline, then you don't nudge them anymore.
Yeah, we only nudge them during the first week.
So next time around when you collected information, that's the only question you ask them. this one liner saying, how often do you use Facebook or social media? And that's all.
So for midline, game film nudge documented significant increase in social media usage for those participants who were not nudged with the game film message. So for the lost film nudge as well, participants who were nudged with the lost film nudge message have also shown significant increase in their social media usage. So for the end line, we do the same thing, and we find that the effect only remains significant for the game film nudge. So, yeah.
And maybe you also want to rethink about how you code your dependent variable, right? It's like a category, these 0.3, like just running them as 1, 2, 3, 4. What does it really mean, right? Maybe you want to think about what you really want to define. How many people switch from not using it at all to at least few times a week, you know, or so something which has some meaning in terms of interpretation, right?
What's it called? Multinomial regression?
You can run a multinomial, like switching over the categories, basically. Yeah.
That would be more meaningful.
Yeah.
Because these are just ordinal, not cardinal.
And this is because there are other papers where you're going to look at what happens to the business in terms of in resulting as a result of this social usage, media usage. I mean, outcomes that we really care about, right? Like what happened because they start using media more, or that's something you're going to tell us something more about today, or something that's for the future.
I do look at sales performance.
Okay.
And also how it changed that attitude towards social media.
Okay, super.
So for the third wave, which is the end line, only the game film nudge has documented significant impact. So, yeah.
So it completely switches around.
Yeah, completely switch around. So in conclusion, the lost film nudge is effective in the midline, but in the long line, in the end line, only the game film nudge is effective. So we also look at the impact on sales.
Sorry, do you have any intuition behind that result?
Yeah, I do discuss.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we also look at the impact on sales and how using social media affect their sales performance. So for the game film nudge, for those who for game film nudge, they show higher sales performance after being nudged and use social media for their business.
And you want to tell us how is what is this? What does 0.52 or 0.91 mean there?
So for sales performance, it is also a categorical variable. So it ranges from 1, decrease more than 100%, to increase more than 100%.
So what is the interpretation of 0.5?
Because the constant is something like 5.26, if I look at it.
This it increased their sales performance by 5%.
But this is it's a negative maintain and positive number, right? What are the categories? Is it 013, 012? Is it -1, 0, 1?
We give them a range. So decrease more than 100, or decrease 75% to 100%, or decrease 51% to 75%. There you can reach.
And they can only decrease, can't increase the sales.
Decrease, we ask them about the decrease in sales first and then increase in sales later. So it is like, it ranges from decrease to increase. So maybe it will be better if I also include the intensity of the sales performance, the change in sales. Yeah.
And what is this relative to 0.52? Because there's just one group here, right? On the independent variable.
So
What's the benchmark group here?
the control group.
But there's 4 groups in total. So this is one. So shouldn't you have other groups on the right hand side as well? So that we can see how much. You include them one by one, which I don't understand. Why do
Yeah,
you
so we
include-
compare gain against control and then loss against control.
But you could compare both of them in the same regression, is what Shafaat is saying.
Yes, I can do that too.
Mm.
Yeah, I can combine them.
And ideally, you would like to compare the baseline, what you call the baseline, to the 3 groups, right? To the training group, to the gain group, and to the loss nudge group. Because now who is the omitted category here? The baseline or the control who's omitted?
Control group.
Yeah, so it's a kind of comparing 2 treated groups, right? And then you just want to ideally include them on the right-hand side as another dummy, and then you can compare and test whether they're statistically different in some sense.
One other minor point is, and it's a minor point, that you would want the samples, I think, to be same in these if you want us to compare 5.2 to 0.91. I mean, it's very little, very different, but I mean, it's a small sample as well. So you would, I mean, if you can show that attrition does not depend on these, cannot be explained by these variables, and it's random, then it's fine. You can just look at the end line and can compare what happened in the middle.
You can run a random attrition.
Yeah, and then once you have established that, then just fix it to the end line sample.
And again, these controls, ideally, like you already shown me, they're kind of balanced, right? Then why do you need to include them at all in your estimation exercises, right? That's the whole point of an RCT. No, you don't need these controls anymore if they are well balanced across the different arms that you are comparing. Maybe just as a robustness in the end, you want to throw them in, but
So we also looked at the impact on sales performance for those who are matched with the loss rate. So similar to the gain frame, they have also shown increase in sales performance. So we also looked at how the attitude towards social media change after being nudged. So for the gain frame nudge, they have shown higher acceptance towards social media, and they also find that social media helps them to accomplish tasks. Accomplish tasks, improve their business performance, helps them in organizing their financial planning, and also they think that it is a good idea for micro entrepreneurs to use social media in the end line. So for the midline, only the loss frame nudge only those who were induced by the loss frame nudge show higher acceptance towards social media. So they find that social media, same thing, help them accomplish tasks, improve their business performance, organize their financial planning, and so most of them think that it is a good idea for micro entrepreneurs to use social media. So this results actually reflect the regression results earlier, because gain frame nudge is more effective during the end line, and the loss frame nudge is more effective in the midline. So it could be due to the difference in the attitude between midline and end line.
But you could also see, for instance, the people who got the loss nudges, on an average, you see in the midline, they made profits, right?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, you mean the midline? They make profits?
So when you look profits, I mean, they're increased sales, right? On an average, the people who receive this loss nudge. But that could be another rationalization where you could think about why loss nudge becomes not so important, because people realize, hey, it doesn't matter, I'm increasing my sales, so losses are out of their mind in some sense. I mean, I'm just.
So in conclusion, both the gain and loss frame nudges significantly increase social media usage among women entrepreneurs. And the end-line result shows that it has substantial treatment impact, because the effect remains significant over time. So from the results, you can see that the loss frame nudge is more effective in the midline. However, gain frame nudge is more effective in the end line. So it could be due to the concept of emotional flow, where message processing depth and action tendencies may vary over time. So for example, the fear component may enhance awareness initially, but later on, the hope component that is induced by the gain frame nudge might generate proactive behavior later. So in a way, the fear component that is normally induced by the loss frame nudge may create a sense of urgency during the midline. And past literature has shown that the gain frame nudge actually has intrinsic motivation for the individuals, so it might manifest later on during the end line. So the implication for microfinance institution is that a multifaceted intervention that combines both the training and nudges may work the best in encouraging social media usage for business. That's all for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have a lot of time for questions. So please feel free to ask whatever you want. Do we have online questions?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Paper would be great to have more details about what does the training do. Maybe you want to think about stressing why these nudges are something distinct from the training in some sense, how come that, and the timing of it. And like we said, maybe include all of them in one regression, treat the baseline group as the omitted category, so that then we can compare across the three. And and how we think about measuring the outcomes, because given they are ordinal variables, how do you want to think about coding them in some sense? Would be interesting too.
Also, the point that you mentioned at the beginning, it was not clear for me in the sense that, is this actually capturing that after the nudging, you are increasing the use of social media, or is capturing that people who receive the nudging, then they report to use more social media? But I mean, there is not really time to actually use more social media.
But when we compare the baseline and the midline, I guess the time frame could allow the effect to be captured.
Okay. But the result that you're reporting then is from the first time to the second time, in the mid.
I think that's something that I can do to see to compare between baseline and midline, and so baseline against and see how it changes.
Exactly, yeah.
And how do they, what usage are they putting the social media to now? Did you ask these people? Did you have a chance to get back to your entrepreneurs and learn, like, what did they do? I was just still curious, you know, do they not never have do they now sell online? Do they reach out to customers online? Do they set up an online shop? What is happening with what did the training teach them and what do they do?
So the training teach them how to promote their products on social media, but the more specific details on how exactly they are using social media was not us, but I think it's something that we can probably interview them later on. Yeah.
And the measure that you use for sales, I guess, is because people is not willing to report actually how much sales they
We
have. Right?
actually have the actual figure on sales.
Okay. Both at the base, both at the first time you collect the data and future also.
Only for baseline and midline. We don't have the data for the end line.
Okay. And okay.
We have the figures for sales and also profit. Yeah.
And that would be good to understand. You also will throw us some light on the scale of these businesses and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, of course, here, because it was hard to see when you meant 0.5, 0.9, like it was being asked, how much did the sales increase by? You know, it would be nice to square them up with how big are these benefits in some sense from such a light touch intervention. And that's why I was curious about what did they do to increase their business performance in some sense.
Probably on what exactly do they use social media for in terms of promoting their business.
Exactly, yeah. What do they do? You know, is it just advertising, online shop? I was just curious to know. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Can you go to the
Sorry.
can you go to results on the usage of by endline and midline usage of social media?
This one?
I didn't.
I think it's not changing. But you have here is not there.
Okay, so basically, I want to ask if the loss nudge is more efficient in is more effective in making them use more social media even in the end line, or is it just if there's a spike in midline it goes down for the usage of social media?
I think this, I mean, there is something with the screen.
It needs to be shared with the rest.
I'm trying. Oh, yeah. It's-
It's not moving, right?
No, it's not there.
Ah, now it's
Now it's not.
See on the usage,
yeah, usage end line.
Not too much.
so it doesn't affect.
Yeah, it doesn't affect. It's the effect's only significant in the midline.
Oh. Okay.
So behavior nudge is more, it's significant in both midline and endline, but the effect is stronger during endline.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I was very curious to learn more a little about your population. So I think it might vary a lot, like the type of population and also the type of social media that you are like presenting. Is it just about Facebook? And the correlation is directly, I guess I understand like with the sales, right? But are there like any other like direct effects that you might measure to see the impact besides the sales? So maybe can you show us or tell us a little more about the population and the type of media that they're using?
You mean the kind of social media that is us?
The kind of social media, yeah, that you're talking about and the type of the population.
So we asked them how often they use WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook.
WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
And they were like, I mean, from your insights, people that already knew a lot about it, they were lacking a lot of literacy in using them. They are from small places or from big cities. Where is the population from?
They are from, I think, both city and also outskirts. We have both.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think I can also try to capture their initial knowledge on social media. Yeah. That would be a good one.
But you mentioned before that these people in the bottom 40% of income, right?
Yeah, most of all of them are the bottom 40% income earners.
Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering also like the effect then of the training, right? Because if they were already people that were like very used to, to the technical stuff of social media, probably it was more into a behavioral change or a mindset, or maybe more into promoting, to be more active in it. So I was just very curious, like what was the effect if it was like more behavioral or more technical? The type
For
of
the training,
intervention.
it's more technical.
More technical about
It's more
how to post
Yes.
things.
Yes, how to take photos of the products and how to market the products. Yeah, it's more technical.
More technical.
Yeah.
But you didn't ask anything about how useful they thought the training was, or any other knowledge content kind of impacts of the training.
Mm. There's one question that asked them how beneficial do they think the training is?
Okay.
Yeah.
And do the results, are they flat across these groups or? Yeah, I think the question was if suppose later on people you are nudging, if they got more out of it, or more out of training. That could be, I don't know, that could be correlated. Anyway, it would be nice to show that there's no relationship between the treatment and the effectiveness of the training. So this is more of a curiosity question because we have time. So with the baseline group, so they saw the ad and they signed up and just nothing happened.
No, so we just recruited random participants, random women migrant entrepreneurs who do not sign up for the training and basically receive no nudge because they don't have access to the survey.
But you do ask them other questions later on, right? What happens to their sales and what happens to their social media usage and
Yeah, for the baseline, we actually only capture them during the first week, not the second and the third week. So that's why I only compare it against the control group, not the baseline.
Okay, yeah, this would have been useful to make.
So the baseline didn't sign up for the training.
Yes, because they receive no training with no nudge.
So then we don't see the complementary effects, right? That you will, anyways, it would be nice to make this clearer in the presentation, in the exact experiment.
So the baseline is not the baseline. I mean, for me, the baseline means it is pre-treatment. That is for me the baseline. You have a separate group that you only interview before the treatment. I'm not quite sure understand. The baseline is a separate group? I understood you had your entrepreneurs, you interviewed them at baseline, and then you randomly assigned them to training only, which was a control group, I believe, which probably would have been better if you had like a proper control group that wouldn't receive anything, but training only, and then the two nudges.
Yes, so we randomly assign them to one of the four groups for the baseline, and then for the midline and endline, we randomly assign them to, we don't capture the baseline, only the control and the treatment groups.
You don't do what was the baseline?
Sorry?
Well, what did you say? You don't do what was the baseline?
We only include the baseline in the first week. So,
I mean, these are different individuals.
they are the same for the 3 weeks for the treatment groups and the control group.
So for the
The
first stage,
pure control is never interviewed later, is what she's saying. They only interview them when they.
Okay, but it is a different, okay, but you interview everyone at baseline
Yes, everyone at the baseline.
Before the training happens.
before the training happens, yes.
Um,
Everyone is interviewed in period
Zero.
period 0.
mm,
Okay, and then you divide them randomly into 4 different groups. But then you only interview at midline and endline the 3 groups
yes,
that
yes,
received
yes.
some treatment, and you don't go back and interview the group that is the actual control group.
Because here we are trying to capture how social media could complement the training, so we only compare it against the control group. So the control group received training but no nudge, so it allows us to capture how effective the nudge is in helping the
Right, but then why do you need the baseline group to start with? Why do you need this one group that doesn't receive anything and that you only interview at T0? Why do you need that at all? Because you could just have randomly assigned the 3 different treatments and get the same comparison.
Yeah, so I actually include them because I want to see whether the training alone is effective or not.
But you cannot say that because you do not observe them at
Midline.
And also
midline or at endline. You can make absolutely no statement about the training itself.
Yeah.
And also one way to do that would be just to look at control group before and after training. Whether training is effective or not, right? Across time rather than,
Oh, of course, yeah.
right?
Well, but this does, but you don't know
What is happening in
what
general
happened
to the
in
trends
absence
now.
of the training, right?
That's why you always need control in some sense, no?
Yeah.
Mm.
That's why you have treatment and control groups and before, after to control for secular time trends.
Do you ask their expectations for the training outcome during the survey, like in the midline and if that's possible, they change the reference point, like their expectations of them, expectations of their self for the training of themselves after the training. Expectations of themselves after the training. Like how much they expected they improve their income after the training. No. will ask them. Meaning how much they expect to benefit from. Right. So it is possible that their reference point for gain and loss, it changes in during the midline and the end line. So that might affect the expectations. Do ask them how beneficial do they think the training program is. It's not asking for their like expectations and the reference points like towards which they want to like improve. No, we don't ask about that, about their expectations. Yeah.
Any other question online here? So please scan the QR code and fill the the survey, and also online, if you can help us fill in the survey. I guess we already share a link with you, so it will be helpful for us to improve the incoming seminars. And if there is no any other questions, we end the seminar now, and thank you very much.
Thank you.